Your strategy has been to attack me with accusations and insinuations, making it very clear that this is not a preliminary hearing, but a witch hunt.
Well, I always wonder what it must be like up there, sleeping in them nice, comfy beds.
Still slaves, no matter where we sleep.
Oh, now you can't speak English.
My friends use the N-word all the time.
Which friends?
Well, Dylan, Asher, Jacob.
Oh, honey, those sound like white boys.
I am not the girl that gets at the end of the movie. I am not a fantasy. If you want me, earn me.
It's so great to see your faces splashed up on the screen as we begin. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Juju Chang from ABC News. You know, earlier this year, the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite took off, went viral, and reminded us all that Hollywood is not at all immune to the lack of diversity that plagues so many of the other powerful industries in this country. So the good news is, though, television seems to be stepping up into that void. Allow me to introduce the 4 women who are transforming the entertainment industry, each in her own very powerful way. I'm going to start with Nina Shah, who's at the end. She's the founding partner of one of Hollywood's top entertainment law firms, whose client list includes John Legend, Lawrence Fishburne, Ava DuVernay. She's the director of Selma, which was nominated for Academy and Golden Globe Awards, among so many other power players. Misha Green is actually right here in the middle with the cool blazer on. She is the creator, the writer, the executive producer of WGN America's hit TV series Underground, and we'll get to the meat of that. To her right is Jurnee Smollett-Bell. She stars as Rosalie. We saw that small clip. We'll talk more about that in the hit series Underground. And to my right is Yara Shahidi. She's the teenage star of ABC's hit family sitcom Blackish. And I want to welcome you all and start our discussion perhaps with Misha. Let's talk a little bit about Underground, right? All of you are like, whew, not me. It follows a group of slaves in the antebellum South. This is very much your baby. What was the inspiration?
You know, the inspiration was seeing this time period the way it's been depicted before. I felt like we hadn't seen any of the people who were enslaved with personal agency. And me and my co-creator, Joe Pekaski, we felt it was really important to put a story on screen where we see that those who were enslaved got to laugh and love and cry, and when they suffered and all that stuff was happening. And so it just literally started from that seed, and we just researched, and the more we read, the crazier these stories were.
I understand there was a historical artifact, a letter that you read that was part of it.
There was a letter from a young enslaved woman who actually inspired Rosalie. In it, she was talking about all the reasons she wasn't going to run. And looking from a modern lens, I was just like, of course you would run if you're first chance you get. And all of her reasons, from her family to she'd never stepped foot off this plantation, it really became this question of to run or not to run. And that just kind of really personalized this period for me and for Joe, and that's when we started to see the characters and where we wanted to go.
In the show, you see the humanity of the characters so vividly. In Underground, Jurnee, you play Rosalie, who is a house slave on the plantation. What attracted you to the role?
The writing, honestly. You know, I get so many scripts in which the female characters are the girlfriend, or they're the best friend for the black girl, or they're the secretary or something like that. And for me, Rosalie's so nuanced, she's so complex. Her identity is not directly defined by her relationship to her male counterpart in the story. And, you know, she's struggling in a world that's very foreign to me, and yet very relatable to me at the same time. And it really was an opportunity to be challenged as an artist, and that's really all you want, you know, as an actress. You're an artist. You want to explore different voices. And for me, you know, again, it's very rare that I get roles where I read scripts like this, where there's so many different female characters, not just myself. You know, there's the role of my mother. There's the abolitionist Elizabeth in the North. There's Pearlie Mae, who works in the field. There's Miss Susanna, who is the slave master's wife. There's all these different female characters who are very nuanced and very complex. And for me, it was a dream to be a part of.
It's such a tribute to the writing on the show that she says that's what she's drawn to. Yara, let me bring you in. You are a pivotal star in the groundbreaking sitcom Blackish, which I kind of think of as modern Black Family, right? Tell us about your character, Zoe, because she really plays a very pivotal role in her teenage angst.
Yeah, well, my character Zoe, I feel like, has grown so much from season 1 to season 2, and that was really intentional because she is the oldest of the Johnson siblings, and I am also the oldest in my family, and she is the sassy one. She's going through a teenage angst period in which she is Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye. She is that kind of person, so she is playing with this idea of being an independent human out in the world while she still needs her family, and that's a clunky transition to feel as though she doesn't need them, but at the same time she's still a little kid. And so you see her play between those two worlds of sometimes she's her father's little girl, but sometimes she's uniting the siblings, and she's the one that is bringing the family together. And so I feel like what was so much fun about her was that she was the typical teen, but at the same time so not.
The clip that I loved was the very sort of famous episode about the N-word, and it's
yes,
and the way that you sort of bring that issue into modern context is fascinating.
Yeah, what's so much fun is that I get to play the voice for Generation Z. I am the representation of my peers that are my age, and while Zoe isn't the singular voice or that all that we think, it is definitely our overall opinion. So I think what's so much fun is from episode to episode, I am that conflicting voice where Pops may think one thing, Dre may think one thing, and then there's Zoe with the exact opposite opinion, and it's fun to play with that.
Nina, let me bring you in on this conversation as well. I know you're very much a champion of the show Underground. Tell me a little bit about the struggle to bring it, you know, onto television and make it come to life.
Well, I'm fortunate enough to represent the executive producers on Blackish, as well as John Legend and Mike Jackson as executive producers on Underground. And I think the genesis of both the shows is really interesting. I've been doing this for quite some time. And I have to say that to watch Blackish kick off, a show that was conceptualized by an African-American writer, independent of the network development system, and then championed by my client, Lawrence Fishburne, who lent his celebrity to it. And all of these things came together when they all went in. And it determined, a lot of the decisions that were made about the show were very forceful. I mean, the kids in the show, Yara as the leader of the young people, it was a real conscious decision that they be very nuanced, that they not be the children that we'd seen in sitcoms, African-American sitcoms or other sitcoms depicting people of color, that they really be as real and authentic as possible. And I think that's why so much of today's television featuring people of color is good, so good.
I heard that the writers take your notes, Yara, at times.
Yes, I mean, it's really, Kenya Bears, the creator of the show, has an open door policy where, I mean, season 1, I think what's difficult is every week for a sitcom you get a new director.
Right.
And so it's like, what do you do with the teenage girl? And oftentimes directors do with the teenage girl what they see their own teenage daughters do. And they'll be like, okay, you guys, you are drowning, you're falling off a cliff, Zoe, you're on your phone. And it was constant where it's like, okay, you are cooking a gourmet meal, Beyonce fell from the sky, Zoe, you're on your phone. And I think what was interesting was then making the decision that halfway through the scene I'd throw my phone to the side. And because I knew that it was the take that they liked to use, they had to keep it that I was involved with the family.
That's right.
And I think through just conversations with Kenya, it's like, where do we want to take her? Because I don't want to turn her into Yara per se, but I wanted to show that we can do more than just be on our phone. Or if I'm on my phone, then I am creating a business or helping my friend, or I'm doing so much more.
Right, you're a more three-dimensional character. Misha, tell me a little bit, I mean, Underground has broken that network's ratings records, and it's enjoying major success, but I can't imagine that it was an easy pitch. And I'm curious if you think that your race, and since this is Women in the World, your gender, played a role in some of the difficulty of that.
Well, I think that, you know, gender, and also, you know, someone told a story, one of my post-production people were like, God, when you walk in a room, you just command so much attention. And I was like, no, when I walk in a room, everybody's like, wait, who is she and why is she here? Because no one looks like me in that room. And I think that was definitely a challenge, which pushing past of being like, I can run basically a small business by doing this show. I can. And I think, you know, that aside, we also had a very difficult subject that not many people want to tackle, not many people thought was something we could come back week to week after. But we knew the vision that we wanted to have for the show, and I think that, you know, it took us 3 years. We pitched it around almost everywhere, and finally WGN was like, we're not sure, but we're going to take a chance with it. And I think that, to you guys' points, it's really important to start having people behind the scenes, because then the nuances and all that stuff, and, you know, girls can say, no, girls don't just talk on the phone. I mean, we do, but not all the time. And I think it's important to start infiltrating those spheres behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think Misha has done something so phenomenal here, because you can't really understand the history of America if you don't understand the history of its enslaved people. And we very... And we almost never see that time period depicted in film or television, and we certainly never see it depicted from the perspective of the enslaved people. And we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, and I said, you know, if you don't understand that America was built on land that they didn't pay for, and people who they didn't pay wages to, and so much of what we are today, we all have to acknowledge, is a result of that system. And I think the more we understand that system, the better we all are. And the fact that you're able to do it in such a suspenseful week after week way that still entertains is just fantastic.
This is a quiet scene, Jurnee, that we have a clip from Underground featuring your character, and also the woman who plays your mother, Amira Van?
Amira Van.
Amira Van, thank you. Let's take a look. Jurnee, walk us through that scene. What's going on in your mind? What's it like to inhabit that role in such an existential crisis?
You know, in doing research, we really try to go back to the slave narratives. When you read first-hand accounts of what it was like to be a survivor of slavery, these men and women were so complex, and you know, to make that choice to run is a very complicated decision. And we see in this scene, Rosalie hasn't said this to her mom, but she is struggling with that choice of, do I have what it takes to step outside a plantation and into a world that I've never been in? Am I made for it? Am I strong? Am I courageous enough? What does it even look like outside of the plantation? I mean, imagine if you've never been outside your home or outside the land that you were born on. And then add the layer of you've always been told that you have no value. So what kind of mental enslavement do you have to overcome? And so in this scene, you know, Rosalie is hinting at desiring for more, dreaming. And it's unfortunate, but a simple thing as dreaming could get you killed in 1857 as an African-American woman. And so her mother, her entire life, has tried to just keep her safe. And just believing that our position in the house is good, you know? And it's a very, very interesting dynamic that Misha and Joe dive into with me and my mom, because my mom is very strong in the show, you know, but she uses the system and tries to manipulate it for her benefit because she's just trying to survive.
But the daughter's more of a revolutionary.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, Misha, tell me about some of these narratives and how they play out in your other characters.
You know, I think we've said from the beginning when we were pitching this show that it's not about the occupation, it's about the revolution. And here's a story of people who were enslaved but fought back, and they're American heroes, and we don't get to hear that story enough, I feel like. And I think that even to go to this scene, to talk about the parallels to girls today, I know there's a lot of girls who feel that way, not just that they're trapped in a box, but people who do want to think outside the box. Girls are getting killed for that still today.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's one of the things when we sit and we break the show and we write it, is we try to find those parallels to today, and it's not very hard to do at all.
Unfortunately. Let me get you to look at the power structure in Hollywood. Is it just a coincidence that Oscar So White had a whiteout versus television, or is there a difference in the power structure in TV that allows for more entry points?
I don't think I would say there's a difference in the power structure. I think with TV there is a more segmentation of the marketplace. There is a greater reliance on the advertiser dollar. There's a greater connectiveness to the audience, and all of those things combine to needing programming that is a bit more authentic. And that really is the difference, the core difference between TV and film.
And yet in the past, you've seen a sort of bifurcation in the audience, white audiences and black audiences. I guess that happens in movies as well, but also on TV.
Less so now in an era where the TV marketplace is so segmented, where people are watching home improvement shows, they're watching sports, they're watching the kinds of shows you might see on a Lifetime. And so you really are targeting that audience. I always say that if you want to see where we are going, look at television commercials, at least in the United States. They're increasingly becoming much more diverse. You see a lot of mixed families, you see a lot of Asian families.
Yeah, I like that. Let's look at a clip from Blackish. Yara, this touches on a lot of the thorny issues about race that are very contemporary. Let's take a look. That's very powerful. I was saying I like that clip because it shows your range as an actress. It's fantastic. So tell me, what's going on? Why is Zoe so distraught?
Well, the entirety of the episode up to that point, she's fairly silent. She has been texting, and she makes an inappropriate joke beforehand, so it seems like she's very detached from what's going on, because the entire family is sitting down as they are waiting for the verdict on this police brutality case. And I think at this point in which Junior has decided to then go to the protest, you see Zoe kind of finally break, and you realize that she is, in fact, connected to it. And I think what's interesting is what my character represents is this generation that is connected via social media. So even though it seems that I have not been yelling, I've not been vocal about the topic within my own home, you can see that I've been talking about it with my friends, I've been tweeting about it, and I think at one point, I don't know if it's still in there or not, but it was the idea that I knew this kid. So I was connected to the kid that ended up getting tased 27 times by this cop, and just seeing how that connection really affects me, no matter how trivial it may have seemed to the adults, like, oh, so this kid followed her on Instagram. It is nonetheless a connection. And
what's interesting to me is that Blackish it proves that it's not a monolithic voice that the Black community speaks in, that people in your show have different voices and different attitudes and opinions. Nina, I'm going to play a clip and have you react to it, because you did mention the sort of the Asian faces on the landscape as well. I want to throw to a clip from Fresh Off the Boat. You know, we live in a world in Hollywood where Constance Wu is on a show. Dr. Ken is headlining a show. I mean, we talked earlier, Mindy Kaling was on the stage earlier this morning. There is a larger and wider set of diverse characters that we're seeing.
And what I really love about the show is the way those characters break the stereotype of how Asian people are typically presented in the media. First of all, as if they're monolithic, because and all of us know that there are many, many, many parts of the Asian culture. But I love the fact that even though Constance Wu's character has many characteristics that we've seen associated in the past with Asian women in terms of being strong and forceful and all of that, she is still very, very nuanced. And she's trying hard. She's trying to protect her family and protect their idea of the American dream. And there's just something so lovely about that being front and center, and it not being so much about their Asianness as it is about their humanity.
It's always about characters that, it's not so much a Black character or an Asian character, it's just a character who happens to be fill in the blank. I'm curious if you feel a sense of social responsibility. What I found interesting about your description is your first word is philanthropist, not actress. You know, do you feel a sense of social responsibility in the entertainment industry, or do you feel like we're entertainers, we're supposed to entertain? Nina, you go.
Well, you know, I look at all of the people here and I think it would be so wonderful, in a sense, if Yara and Misha and Jurnee got to be just simply artists. But they don't have that luxury. They are artists and they are activists because of their race and because of where they stand, in the same way that I don't get to be an entertainment lawyer like my peers. Because at the end of it, I have to be an advocate for people like them, and I have to be, I really see myself as a guardian of not just their artistic integrity, but their right to be who they are in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you feel that social responsibility, Misha, when you are creating, writing, thinking up characters?
I think you, in the exact same way, you have to. I don't think you can live in a bubble where you don't have any social responsibility, but I don't see one as the other. I think you can entertain and be social responsible at the same time, and I feel like that's the stuff I love to watch. That's the stuff that draws me in, because one moment I'm like, man, this deep thing I gotta think about, and the next moment I'm like, don't they look good too? All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, honestly, again, going back to being an artist, it's an extension of your identity. It's an extension of who you are. So if you are somewhat of an activist, I don't know that you can create art that counters that. You know, I've been fortunate because I've been fortunate to work with people consistently like a Misha or like a Jason Katims, who created Friday Night Lights and created very complex women, even though he's a man, you know? I think...
Gotta love that.
I think, you know, it's when you read a script, there's things that just turn you off, and then just, you know, your soul couldn't let you be a part of it, and there's no price tag that they could put on my soul at the end of the day.
And I mean, I feel like before Blackish, I'd gotten a script in which I was supposed to be the best friend to a girl that was trying to get into a school, but she couldn't get into the school that she wanted to because the spot was left open to a black person due to affirmative action. And so the entire script is me trying to prove that my friend is black enough to get into the school and be and benefit from affirmative action. And the entire time it's like, oh, we're gonna cornrow her hair. Oh, I think at one point there's a mild version of brown face. And it was like the craziest thing I'd ever read, and even though it would have been, oh great, it's another movie, I haven't done a movie in a minute, there was no point because I feel just reading the script I was cringing, so I couldn't imagine shooting it and then releasing it to the world.
So you are selective about your roles, Jurnee.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, my resume would be way longer. I'd be really rich if I would just sell my soul, darn it, you know. And it's interesting because I have this conversation with my agents all the time, and they send me things, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care to be set dressing on that. And it's like, well, you could be in front of, you know, you could be in this movie that's going to be seen by a lot of people.
I say it sometimes too.
And it's like, you know, it's really about finding, you know, finding those projects where you can feed your spirit, you can feed your soul at the same time.
Yara, I read that that's so nice. I think that's a good thing. I read that your own sense of racial identity has evolved and grown through these roles.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like I was born, I'm half Iranian, half black, so I am a part of a very multicultural household, and what I loved about it was that my family gave me the opportunity to explore both cultures equally, but at the same time, I feel like until I hit my teens, I wasn't introduced to this idea of discrimination, because I didn't understand the concept of hating a human based on something that they couldn't change, or based on something that was beautiful, and I think that has definitely evolved when I stepped into the show like Blackish. There's a James Baldwin quote that I like to loosely paraphrase.
We won't hold you to it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It goes, for a black child around the age of 5, 6, or 7, they realize that the flag that they pledged allegiance to along with everybody else has not pledged allegiance to them. And it's this idea that I feel like at a younger age now, people are realizing that society wasn't meant for them to belong, and that shouldn't be the case. And I feel like through media and through TV and through movies, we are, with these characters that we are seeing now, we are trying to, I guess, impress upon people that they do in fact belong, and that this flag is something that we can change and shift to, and we can pledge to as many people as we want to.
Do you know, I was reading background on you, and I didn't know how you could earn a 4.6 GPA, but now I do. I understand how you did that. Nina, we're running short on time. You were recently honored by Essence's Black Women in Hollywood Awards ceremony, where you called for women to empower other women. How does that mantra work beyond the screen?
Well, what I said then, and something I strongly believe in, that if you're a woman and you want to be empowered, then you need to empower other women. So that if you are hiring someone, whether to represent you or do work for you, ask them about their businesses. Ask them how many people in their businesses look like you. And if not, why not? And I think that's something that I really try to impress. I don't think it's fair that you should go to these businesses, whether they be the management companies or agencies or law firms, and they wouldn't hire you.
The DGA said that 70%, 69%, 70% of the episodes were directed by white men still to this day. And I think there's a, you know, I was talking to John Ridley, who's the Academy Award-winning author of 12 Years a Slave, and he said, I don't even like the word diversity anymore.
No.
We've moved beyond diversity. This should be reflective, just as you said. Does it look like you? We have a closing minute in our panel. I just want to get your final thoughts. We're the future of Hollywood. Misha, let's start with you. Misha's like, you go, Jurnee.
Yeah, Jurnee, what do you think on that? I don't want to waste this minute. Someone say something.
This is the future of Hollywood, everyone.
Yeah, you know, definitely.
I buy that. Hear, hear.
And I mean that. Yara, Misha, Jurnee, who I've known.
Nina, who I've known since I was 9. No, I think everyone's alluded to the fact, you know, Viola Davis won an Emmy for Best Actress, broke the glass ceiling for African American actresses, but she said that you can't win awards for roles that aren't there. And so without someone like a Shonda Rhimes or a Misha Green or a Kenya creating these roles, we wouldn't have jobs. And so it's definitely about us taking the power back, creating more opportunities for more women, what you're saying, and really paying it forward. So I'm excited for the future of Hollywood for that reason.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well said. I have an 8-year-old brother, and this little 8-year-old is the most cynical human ever, just from what he's seen. So we were watching a movie, and he's like, of course, the black guy dies first. Okay. And I think what's so beautiful now is that he doesn't always have to say that. And he's like, oh my goodness, he survived. And he's surprised by it, this little 8-year-old. And so I think it's such a beautiful thing to see that that is the direction we're going in which we don't have to count how many black characters are on screen or to see if we have made it into that commercial or see if we played a pivotal role or if all of our material is cut. And I think it is so beautiful to see that that's where we're going, and that's where we're going to obviously stay.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom. Thank you.